Welcome to the Spiritual AF Life podcast, a magical place where your host, Heather Danielle, psychic medium, will bring the mystical woo-woo world down to earth in practical ways. Tune in every Monday for your weekly reading and on Wednesdays to hear fascinating conversations with spiritual experts, uplifting stories, and deep dives into the metaphysical world, all to help you tap into the invisible guidance that's all around you. It's time to start living a spiritual AF life. Get cozy, the conversation is starting now.
We are going to have so much fun today going ahead and giving the reading for this week because we are using the Spiritual AF deck by Knock Knock. This deck is freaking hilarious. It's also not for the faint of heart because it has some really cool words and phrases on it, but I love it because it's freaking down to earth. And of course, it's Spiritual AF. And if you know me, I'm everything Spiritual AF, the Spiritual AF Academy, the Spiritual AF Library, which, by the way, it is free. So definitely check the show notes so that you can go ahead and get the Spiritual AF Library. So I am shuffling the cards and they are not wanting to come up. And I think that's just because I am not saying something that needs to be said. And I think that is that, okay, it might be like a very long week this week. It just might seem like some of the days blend together. That's kind of what I'm picking up. And for Monday in particularly, I'm getting like hitting the ground running. So today we are going to have to like just dial it in. We are not going to have to procrastinate is not going to be a good idea. Putting things off is not going to be a good idea. I'm actually getting that maybe you have put it off long enough and now you're going to have to start doing it. Let's see what else is being brought up. Oh my gosh. It says here, the world doesn't owe you anything. But to be honest with you, I'm getting more SHIT going on with the world with this card. I know that it's going to have its own meaning, but when I'm tuning into the energy, it's almost like, yes, the world is like kind of like what they've been saying for decades, going to hell in a handbasket, so to speak. Don't really get involved unless you feel like that is part of your life path and your purpose. So, for example, politics is a huge thing, and it's been pretty big since, even before Trump was elected, I would say back with Obama and things like that. But if you weren't a person who was really into politics and you're not the person that's going to be, trying to change legislature inside of your state, and you are the one that's not up for changing laws or, really feeling that movement to change it, then step back because that's not your place. Maybe you can talk about that between your family and your friends and things like that and the people who get you. But just because there's craziness going on in the world doesn't mean that you have to go ahead and be a part of it. I know that sounds kind of crazy, and I'm not just saying about politics, but I'm also picking up with anything that is bothering you in the world. Okay. If it is bothering you and you feel called to like do something about it, then that's part of your path and you should totally go down that. But if you're anything like me, I don't feel like anything to do with politics is really my thing. And I hate to say it, I can do my part with the environment, but I don't really feel like my life path is to like save the whales, to save the sharks. Like I want to pray, I can donate to those things, but that's not part of my life path. My life path right now is to like help empaths, because if we go ahead and we can help each other feel better and raise the vibration of this planet, it is going to do the world a lot of good. You were sent down here in this incarnation for a freaking reason, okay? And you have a particular role to fulfill. And that could be just starting off small within your family and friends and, decreasing their anxiety, helping them with their intuition, or even weird things too that you might think that wouldn't even help, like going ahead and helping them, with real estate, motivating them to get different jobs, motivating them to, not be a victim of relationships and all these other kinds of things. So your role might be completely different. So if you are not called to really help out with things and in the world in the different kind of scale and different arena, then I hate to say this, but it's like try your best to disconnect. I know many empaths that, cannot watch the news and things like that, and that's okay. You can stay abreast with it by taking in small little doses of it on, social media sites and things like that, or talking with people whom you trust to give you, the most reliable insight. But you don't have to overload yourself with the things that are going on in the world. I hope that makes sense. If you feel called to help, if you feel called to do things like that to help out the world, then go ahead and by all means do it. But don't just watch the news and stress out, okay? That's not going to help anybody. All right. So this card, though, says the world doesn't owe you anything. And it says acting like the world owes you something keeps you in a mentality of scarcity. Here's a hard truth: the universe never borrowed anything from you. All the gifts she's giving you so far have been gifts. If you treat everything in your life like that, you will be a lot happier. Unless you're a DICK, right? Then you'll just be grumpy. It's your choice, boo boo. But I just love this because it's reminding us to stay outside of the victim mentality role on Monday. So that's going to be, you are not just a product of your environment. You're not just a product of the things that have happened. You know, people have been through worse things than you and I have went through. They have gotten the rough end of the stick, okay? And you hear about these amazing transformations that people have went through. You can do that too, all right? So you've been dealt the rough hand, and it might even get rougher, but guess what? You can get out of it. Spirit's here to inspire you. And also, Monday had a second card. So let's see what it says. It says, be kind hearted AF and full of love. It says, but maintain boundaries like an MFer. And it says, letting people mess with you is not a spiritual attribute. Thinking about the Archbishop Desmond Tutu. That dude wouldn't have done the good stuff he did in the world if he let people walk all over him. Even His Holiness Dalai Lama tells people to F off sometimes in his own compassionate AF way. Yes. And, like, seriously, I love that they brought up the Dalai Lama because, like, I've read a lot about him. And yeah, sure enough, like, even in his own words, he's like, people think I never lose my SHIT. He was like, I do. Not in those words, but he was like, I do, because if you don't get angry, if you don't get upset, if you don't get these crazy emotions, then something's wrong with you, or you're from another planet. That was literally from the Dalai Lama himself. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. And so that's what it's reminding you, though. It is reminding you that you have all of these kinds of emotions. It's okay to express them, you know, but making sure that you keep boundaries. That's going to be the biggest thing on Monday. I really want you to basically try to clear your energy, and then also set those boundaries with people. Now, when people are freaking pushing your boundaries, I said this a million times and I'll say it again, right? It is up to you to uphold those boundaries. It sucks sometimes because you got to be assertive sometimes, but it's okay. And if you're like, well, they always push my boundaries, I'm sorry, but that's your fault. That's not their fault, okay? Because you have to outline it. Kind of like where they say, where people treat you the way that you tell them to treat you. That's exactly what I'm freaking talking about, okay? So we are going to keep that right there. But it says on Monday, be kind-hearted AF and full of love. So giving love to those people who really need it, maybe even reaching out to friends and stuff like that, saying, hey, how are you doing? Because they could be going through a rough time. You don't even know. All right, Tuesday, the universe is your sugar daddy. And it says, we've all spent time feeling effed by the universe. To assume it's time we got showered with some real dope SHIT. Spend time today letting the universe treat you like arm candy you are. The simple act of changing your vibe to one of receiving and thanking the universe for all its cosmic bling will do the trick. The mantra today is bring it, puppy. Yes. So on Tuesday, it's like, hey, if you've been waiting for that money to come, if you've been waiting for this, if you've been waiting for that break, if you've been waiting for some guidance and some answers and stuff like that, on Tuesday, you might be getting a little bit of a hint of that, basically. It's also making you to remind you that the universe is abundant. Money is freaking abundant. All right. So stop selling yourself short. Stop thinking that, oh, well, I only want a little bit, because that's a freaking lack mindset. We need you thinking bigger, bigger, and better, because the happier you are, the more time you have, and also the more money you have, then all those things can go ahead and help out charities and volunteer work. And you could do so much more with your time and with your life here if you had more money and if you had more abundance, less stress, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So on Tuesday, this is going to be when your ability to manifest is going to be at its height. So definitely 1000% take advantage of that energy on Tuesday. Okay. So let's go on to Wednesday's card. Yeah, I just feel like there's a lot going on too. So I feel like it's a lot going on for different people. Does that make sense? So it's almost like this is like a group reading. So some of these days are going to be like spot on for you. And then some of them might be like, not really sure, because I feel like, almost like how women have their menses synced up. Like that's kind of like how I'm feeling, except for right now we're not synced up. Okay. We're not synced up. Everybody is going through their own kind of thing. Some of us are going through like, hey, the calm before the storm. We're going through the storm right now. Some people are getting out of the storm. So right now we're not really synced up. So that's the reason why that some of these messages for certain days are going towards certain people that need it the most. All right. So on Wednesday, I have got to look and see what the moon cycle is on Wednesday, because it says, just look at that thing. Isn't it lovely AF? You're welcome. So if you have been hearing about the moon phases, the new moon, the full moon, all those kinds of things, then I want you to start actually implementing it. I am the same exact way too, because I don't always pay attention to where the moon cycles are, but we are being guided to go ahead and to use that, because you are someone who is very sensitive to the moon cycles. So this means your new moon wishes, going ahead and writing them down, because that can really help you manifest what you want by the time the next new moon happens. All right. And then I also want you to pay attention to like the full moon energy too, because you might be somebody who is very, very sensitive to that yang energy of that full moon. And it might not be the best time for you to make big decisions, for you to have that one-on-one deep conversation with that person. It might not be the best time because you might be so sensitive to energies that you just might mess it up. All right. You just might mess it up. All right. So let's look at Thursday's card. What's coming up for Thursday? Ooh, meditation. It says a meditation, AKA shutting the F up for a few minutes. And it says, lots of people say they don't know how to meditate. You are no longer allowed to be one of them. Shut up for a few minutes. See what happens. Yep, that's what Buddha did. Then do it some more. Yes, meditation. So on Thursday, if you're having to make any kind of decisions, don't do it without meditating. All right. If you are feeling emotional, hormonal, if you are feeling full of disarray, you have to meditate. Just meditate for 5 minutes. Meditate in your car. Like if you were anything like me, I was scared to meditate. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So I would sit in my car, even on my lunch break, and then I would stare at a tree. And I would have my eyes open and I would stare at a tree, or you could stare with whatever that you want. Just don't stare at a person, because, they might call the cops on you. But I would go ahead, stare at something very gently and lightly. And then your job is just to focus on that one thing. Anytime that your mind starts wandering about, oh, where did that tree come from? How old is that tree? Oh, that tree reminds me of this park that I went to when I was a kid and my mom was there, my dad was there. No, we got to stop that, right? We got to bring your focus right back to the tree, to where all you're doing is concentrating on the tree. It's like going to the gym for your brain. The easier that it will be. What it is doing is it's teaching you to be in the present moment and not going down those rabbit holes of your thoughts. Okay. And that's really, really big on Thursday. So even if you can't meditate, try guided meditations, okay, where they talk you through, a scenic thing that you visualize in your mind. You might try a walking meditation. If you can't do any of that, at the very least, go ahead and journal out some of those emotions, because that will go a very long way. Wow, Friday's card just popped up. So I don't know why, but the energy feels really, really fast. A lot of fun on Friday. And OMG, WTF, I totally forgot I'm leaving for my show on Friday. So super duper excited about that. And then, of course, that exciting, crazy energy that I just felt makes sense now. All right, let's see. Guess who ain't gotta explain SHIT to nobody? You. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. So just really quick. So I know you probably already know this, but I am training for a bodybuilding competition. And so I'm leaving Friday, having to sign up and everything else for this competition on Friday. And the show is on Saturday. I know that bodybuilding is not for everybody. All right. I know some people have their own little insights to it and their own comments and that kind of stuff. And you know what? That's fine for them to feel that way. They don't have to agree with me. Just like they might go ahead and do some other things and I don't agree with them. Maybe I don't like what they do. Maybe it's just not my thing. Maybe whatever. But guess what? That's them. This is me. That's their path. This is mine. And so just as I can honor them and their decisions, they can honor mine and my decisions. So this is saying to you that whatever choices that you decide to make, that is your freaking choices. All right. That is okay. It's okay if people don't agree with you. It's okay if people don't like what you do. You have got to have confidence in your own freaking decisions. And it's like, I know that many of us have grown up with that family to where it's like, we were taught not to trust ourselves. We were taught that other people know better than we do. We were probably pushed down. We were ridiculed, all those kinds of things. But guess what's happening right now is that you can overcome that and you can start trusting in yourself and become your own best friend. Let's see what it says. It says, quit trying to explain yourself to everyone. No one has to understand your brand of cuckoo. You got to own your stuff. But that's a whole lot different than trying to get everyone else to sign off on whatever weirdness you want to create. Get on with your freaky little self, you freaky little F, right? I love this. I love this so much. And so do it. Do whatever it is that you think is freaking weird. If you want to get a degree in basket weaving, if you want to go ahead and get your degree in metaphysics, if you want to learn how to become a psychic medium, hey, I'm your gal, right? If you want to start your own podcast, if you want to write your freaking book, all right? Who cares? Like, do you think I made $1 million off of my book? No, I freaking didn't. I also illustrated another children's book too. That was me. That was mine. That was my dream. Did people think like, oh, Heather, you should do this, you should do that? Yeah. I'm gonna tell you a quick story. It outlines this freaking perfectly. I was working for the Army and I was training with JMAC. JMAC is Joint Mortuary Affairs, right? So these are the soldiers that take care of the other soldiers who have passed on, right? And a lot of times this is in combat. These are the ones that the soldier who has basically left this planet, right? They go to JMAC soldiers and the JMAC soldiers, do what they need to do. To honor that soldier, and outside of JMAC, where it is stationed at now Fort Gregg Adams, which was normally Fort Lee, Virginia, there was this big giant rock in the middle of this garden. And this garden was to honor those soldiers who gave the ultimate sacrifice. And so it was a big, giant, ugly rock, and they would try and make this garden as pretty as possible. And they had like a plaque with these beautiful shoes, just trying to honor everybody. And so I decided that we really needed to make that rock prettier. And everybody agreed with me. Everyone was like, yes, Heather, someone needs to paint that rock. We need to do better by the soldiers who have given the ultimate sacrifice. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I ended up priming the rock and painting the rock to where it was like an American flag was painted over this rock. And that was one thing that I decided to do to help, the JMAC soldiers who I honored so much and respected so much. And then also it helped out their garden area. And when I started doing this, you guys, I was bombarded with people coming up, giving me their 2 cents. So now it's during the middle of a workday and I'm working here and I am trying to paint this darn rock. And then so-and-so comes up and they tell me what they would have done with the rock. And then so-and-so comes up and then they tell me what they would have done with this other rock. And they would do this and they would do this and someone should do that and blah, 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 and giving me all these ideas and how they would have done this. But here's the thing. They didn't do it. All those effing years that rock sat there, not one person decided to take initiative. Not one person decided to do anything. I'm the one that decided to do something. So all those comments honestly irritated the F out of me. And I started working on the weekends to finish that darn rock so I can finish it in freaking peace. And you know what ended up happening? The director of JMAC actually reached out to me. He was a good friend and stuff like that. I love him to death. And he's like, Heather, thank you so much for what you did with that rock. He was like, because now when we're trying to tell people how to get to our building, which is the big, ugly orange building on the left, he was like, we can tell them, do you see the painted rock? That's where we're at. And it was just beautiful and amazing. And I wonder how that rock is standing up now because I gave them extra paint just in case it chipped and things like that, even though like I did everything I could do to keep it intact. But that was a perfect freaking example of that. People are going to have a lot to say after you freaking say it, after you freaking do it, after whatever. And you know what? Let them. It's fine. Maybe you need to work on the weekends. Maybe you stop talking to those people. Maybe you just go ahead and you focus on the people that freaking get you and your brand of freaking cuckoo. All right. Well, so I hope that you enjoyed this reading, and then I will see you back here on Wednesday for another episode of the Spiritual AF Life. Love ya. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to the Spiritual AF Life podcast. You'll find all the links to resources and more in the show notes. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on the incredible episodes that are coming up.